Welcome to Elevate Your Ride, the podcast dedicated to elevating your performance in the saddle. I'm Ellie, your personal trainer.
And I'm Lauren, your mindset coach.
So, today, Lauren and I kind of wanted to talk to you guys about how show season is ending, and it's a good time to kind of look at how your year went and look at how you can improve for the next show season. So, what we wanted to talk to you guys about today is how to recover and reboot for the next year. So, Lauren, let's say that somebody had a great year or even not a great year. How do you look at how your year went and then look on how to improve upon it?
Absolutely. Especially now since we are finishing the world show, kind of all the major championships have come and gone. Right now is a great time to be able to look at how far you've come, appreciate the things that you and your horse have learned, and see where you want to go for next year. So, one thing that's awesome is a lot of us video our runs now. So it's a great opportunity to schedule a time to sit down with either a family member, your trainer, a friend, somebody to be able to sit down and say, okay, what do you think? How did I develop? Because a lot of times we can be pretty critical of ourselves and maybe not see the growth that we have made because we have so many ambitions and goals. And even if we have a great year, a lot of times when we are in the middle of it, it's hard to appreciate that. And so by being able to sit down with somebody that you trust, give you honest feedback, you'll be able to kind of evaluate where you're at and where you want to go from there. And be able to take time too to appreciate the things that have gone right. Because a lot of times we will kind of skim over that in an effort to focus on where we can always get better because we do want to get better and that's a great place to be, but it's also really important to remember and validate yourself for the things that you have done right because I guarantee you had at least one good run this year or one good part of your run to be able to look at and say, "Hey, you know what? That was worth the time and effort that I put into this." And so it's also good too to give yourself a little bit of a mental break where you can have a letdown, maybe go on a vacation. The vacation doesn't even have to be that crazy. Just a staycation at home where you can just veg out, watch some movies all weekend and not have to think about horses or horse showing. And then make yourself miss it just a little bit so that way you can have a renewed fire when you come back out to the barn. And you're going to know what it is that will fuel your soul to just kind of get that recovery, and a lot of times recovery is nothing, and a lot of us being our type A personalities of wanting to always be better, we feel like a recovery has to be something quote unquote active, where we are doing or mentally working on something, but sometimes it's just vegging out in front of the TV and giving yourself a chance to just chill out and then come back with a renewed energy to go and tackle the next challenge you wanna put in front of yourself and your horse.
Yeah. I think that as show season comes to an end and we start to get into the colder weather and into the holiday season, we start to get a little bit busier in our personal lives. And especially in September and October, if you have kids that are going back to school and then Halloween and everything, like it can just be kind of a busy time of year. And it can be really easy to get burnt out this time of year. It's been a long year. People have probably been going to a lot of horse shows, had a lot going on. And then it's kind of this weird period, kind of in like November, December, maybe even into January, where it's like there's not a lot of horse stuff going on. So that's a really good time to make sure that you're not burning yourself out. It's unrealistic to think that you can go 100% towards your horse fitness mindset goals all year round without a break. I think it's just a good time of year to relax, let yourself reboot, like you said, so you can come back to the next show season with that fire kind of built back up, almost with like a little bit of vengeance, right? Like sometimes time off can be a really good thing. So, like, for example, anytime that I have a client that comes to me and says, I've got a really busy next couple weeks or next month or whatever, what should I keep doing? Like, what workouts should I be doing and that sort of stuff? And how am I going to bring my equipment with me on the road and whatever else? Like, people get so focused in on their goals. And while that is really positive, it's a really easy way to burn yourself out. It's a kind of can be a little bit of a slippery slope. And especially as people who are going to really big shows like the Congress and the World Show and that sort of stuff, you got to be a little bit careful that you're not setting yourself up for failure instead of success. For example, if I have somebody who's going to a big horse show and they're going to be gone for like a month, I'm probably not going to have them bring their weights. Probably just gonna give them, like, some stretching things to do and focus on some yoga, maybe bring their foam roller, that sort of stuff, like, just focus on the recovery piece, and then when you get home, if you still need a little bit of time off, that's totally fine, but then once you get back home, that's when we need to ramp the training back up. From a personal trainer standpoint, I can't run a client at 100% every week of the year, every month of the year. People need mental breaks, people need physical breaks. Breaks are not always a bad thing. You can come back from a break and be ready to hit your next stride and ready to be stronger than you were before. So, that's my advice as we kind of head into this little bit of a lull season is allow yourself a little bit of a break before you hit it hard again.
So how do we go into kind of winter season with all of the yummy treats and all of the busy parties and things that we get to go to? And how do we give ourselves a break physically from the workouts without letting ourselves fall off the wagon? Where's that fine line?
It's really tough, right? So, I think you have to decide what your game plan is before you head into this kind of treat season where it's like all the Halloween candy and then we have all the Christmas parties and all that sort of stuff, and we get a little bit more comfortable putting on a little bit of winter weight. So, which is all inherently good things, right? Like, yeah, like we've talked about in a previous episode, you have to have a little bit of balance and you can't just be hitting your goals hard 100% of the time. You have to allow your mind and your body time to rest and enjoy all those little things because no one wants to be the person at the party that people have to bring the healthy food for. You know what I mean? No one wants to be the person that's like, "Oh, sorry, I can't have your cookie that you spent hours making, or I can't have the dinner that you made because there's too much butter in it," right? Like, don't let yourself be that person because you need a little bit of balance in your life. But like what you said, how do you not kind of let that snowball into like a negative effect where like you go so far away from your goal that you never get back on track. So, like I said a minute ago, have a plan and stick to that plan. I try to live by what's called the 80-20 rule. So, 80% of the time, I'm working out, giving my body what it needs, fueling my body, doing all the things that I need to achieve my goals. Okay. And then 20% of the time, I'm eating pizza, I'm eating candy, I'm vegging out, binge watching Survivor or whatever else I watch, right? So, how to not let yourself get unbalanced where all of a sudden if it's 70-30 and then 60-40 and then 50-50, right? Like that can be really hard to do. And I've gone down that before and it's really hard to climb yourself back out of it. It's not fun because you know how much work it takes to get to that kind of maintenance phase where like you're eating well, you have a good relationship with food, you have a good relationship with your body and your exercise routine and like you're happy with where you are. Like that's a really hard spot to get to, but that's what everybody's always chasing, right? So it takes a lot of work to get there. So sometimes you can lose some motivation because I think you talked about this in like our episode with Jeff, where you were like, I really want to win that world champion, but I know it takes so much work. And how do I keep myself from getting overwhelmed by all the work. And I can't remember which episode we talked about this in. It might have been that episode. You talked about putting your goal on like a sticky note or something and putting it on your bathroom mirror
Yep.
so you can see it every day. I think that you can step away from your goals, but you still need to be mindful about your goals because I think as soon as your goal leaves your mind, that's when you're going to kind of go down that slope and not be able to get back up so easily. So you need to somehow think of a way that you can keep that goal fresh in your mind. Even if you're not actively working towards it, you can't let it leave your mind. So you might need to put it on a sticky note on the fridge or on your bathroom mirror, or you might need an app that sends you like a motivational quote every day. You might need to follow us on social media and watch our little motivational quotes and videos that we're always putting out, right? Like you need something in your life that's kind of constantly reminding you of what the goal is. That way you can't forget about it. Cause once you forget about it, I think you're kind of screwed. Hey everyone, thanks so much for tuning in to Elevate Your Ride. We're so excited to continue helping you elevate your performance in the saddle. To keep bringing you quality content and information, we're asking you to help us. Tell your friends about us on our podcast, like and share a meaningful quote you saw on our social media, write us a review on Spotify or Facebook. You can also join our Facebook group and ask all your health and fitness questions, or maybe post a success story to motivate another amateur. Your engagement really helps us support and encourage the equestrian community. We're also inviting sponsors and supporters to help us build our show. As a sponsor, starting at just $150, you'll receive marketing on our podcast, website, and growing social media platforms for your business. It's the perfect way to connect with the equestrian community and showcase your brand to our dedicated listeners. And for our supporters, your $50 contribution gets you a shout out on our social media and website. Every bit of support really helps fuel the show and helps us inspire and motivate equestrians. So, if you're interested in learning more about that, you can scroll down to the show notes of this episode and look for the Become a Supporter or Become a Sponsor links and click on those to get some more information. Thank you for listening. We can't wait to continue expanding our platform and helping you elevate your ride.
Absolutely. I think those are all really good points. And like you said, having the sticky note on there or a note on your phone or set it as the background of your phone. So something to
Yeah,
remind
that's a good.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah, something to remind
Yes.
you of what you're working towards. And like I know for me too, if I am in a hectic phase, I'll maybe gear back in certain areas, but not completely shut off. So instead of
Yes.
doing 3 sets, I'll do 2, or instead of doing 2 sets of a workout,
Yeah.
I'll do 1. Maybe instead of feeling like I need to write 1,000 words, I'm gonna write 100 words, right? So I'm constantly still working towards it. It's just the steps towards it are much smaller, and it's kind of just little bite-sized pieces. So in a way, I'm still reminding myself that this is what I'm going towards without feeling the overwhelm of, "Oh my gosh, I have to have all of it right now."
I think that breaking it down into those smaller bite-sized pieces, which again, we talked about that on our episode with Jeff. I think that the way that we were talking about it in that episode is a little bit different, but I think
Right.
it still applies here.
Yep.
So, like, for example, this summer, I was super, super busy. I was moving, I was planning my wedding. There was a lot going on personally, and I kind of had to put horses on the back burner. But I still had that goal. So, this entire year, my goal has been to kind of work on my hip stability a little bit more. I had gotten to a point in my riding where I'd gotten really strong in my hand and my leg, but in that process, I kind of lost my seat and I was focusing too much on keeping my body still. And I kind of lost like my connection to the horse with my seat. And when that happened, I created a muscle imbalance accidentally and I lost a lot of my glute medius stability and my lower back stability because I was working so hard on just finding the front to back motion of the horse that I lost the lateral motion of the horse. And then I started having a lot of problems like sometimes I wasn't picking up the correct lead or I couldn't feel a diagonal or I couldn't get a horse to bend around my inside leg and I was really having trouble in my haunch turns like horses always wanted to back out of them. It didn't matter what horse I was on. I was having the same issues and I had a physical therapist come out. She kind of evaluated me because I knew something was wrong, but I couldn't quite pinpoint what it was. So she evaluated and found that I needed more lateral glute medius stability. So when I first started working with her, I was doing my exercises 5 to 7 days a week. Like it was a lot, right? And then this summer got super freaking busy. And I could no longer dedicate the 30 minutes a day towards it anymore. I just couldn't. I was way too busy. But I made sure I still did them twice a week because I knew that my end goal by the end of the year was to really create that stability. And I knew that if I take even 3, 4 months off, for the summer that I was not gonna get to my goal. So I made sure that twice a week, 30 minutes, even though it wasn't great, it was good enough to still get me to my goal. And for example, I was riding around last week on a horse that really pushes his rib cage to the outside. So a lot of riders struggle with like their saddle shifting to the outside. And I was riding him and apparently I didn't put the prong in the cinch very well. And I was, like, loping along, and my trainer comes up to me, and she's like, "Stop. Don't move. Stop your horse." And I'm like, "What's going on?" She, like, scared me, and she's like, "I can see daylight between your cinch
Oh
and
my
the horse's
goodness.
belly." And I'm like, "Oh my goodness, okay. Well, that's a testament to show that I built so much more lateral stability that I mean, I basically had no cinch at all, and I was riding a horse that really pushes you around laterally." So that really spoke to me that all the work that I've been putting in all year long really paid off. I'm glad that it did, otherwise I would have ended up in the dirt.
Wow, that's a whole 'nother
So,
episode to talk about.
yeah, hitting the dirt. So, that's just kinda goes to show that you can still achieve your goals and focus on other things too.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. I love that. And I'm really happy to hear that you were able to pare it down a little bit into something manageable for you and it still paid off. So that's why, I
Yeah.
mean, you just maybe had to change the length of time it took to achieve your goal, but you still got there. And that's so cool.
Mhm. Yeah, I was super, super happy with it.
Are you looking for that extra competitive edge, struggling with show pin anxiety, or looking to set and achieve meaningful goals with your horse? Schedule a session with me, Lauren, your dedicated mindset coach. As an experienced competitor, I understand the mental demands required to excel at the highest level, and I'm here to support you in building a plan to help you stay accountable and reaching those goals. For more information, check out laurencervelli.com or click on the website link in our show notes. Let's work together to elevate your ride. So when we come off of a big show such as Congress or World Show, and we have that kind of recovery phase of where we're kind of low on sleep, low on energy, mentally and physically fatigued, how long should you give yourself to recover before we start thinking and ramping up for physically for the next year's show season? Because it's also a great time to start building things because maybe we aren't writing quite as much. So we can maybe push the weights more and focus on that too. How do we know when we're ready to make that transition?
Have you heard of the sleep bank theory?
No, but I would love to. I need more sleep for
Oh,
sure.
really? I'm kinda surprised about this. So it's something that I don't know if the military invented the tactic or if they just use it, I'm not quite sure. But it's something that the military uses. And so a lot of times when people are training for the military, they have like 24 to 36-hour long shifts. I think that the medical field might use this as well, but don't quote me on that. I'm not
Okay.
sure. There's this theory that you can look at your sleep like a bank account and you can't let your balance get below 0 and you need to make deposits into your sleep bank account. That way, your balance never gets below 0. So, let's say you know that you're going to be up for 24, 36 hours. In the week or the weeks leading up to that time period, you need to be depositing a lot of sleep into your sleep bank account. And that way, when you and you have those really long days, your body never gets below that balance of 0. So, I would apply the same theory to both sleep, working out, eating, like all those things that you just mentioned. I would apply that bank account idea to all of those, making sure that before you go to a long horse show like that, you need to deposit into the healthy eating bank. You need to deposit into the getting your workouts in bank. You need to deposit into your sleep bank because you know when you're at that 3 to 4 long week horse show that you're going to be taking out a lot, right? So making sure that you're getting your deposits in all year long is really going to help. One, so you don't get burnt out. And then two, so you have more success during the show. And then three, so it's easier for you to bounce back once you get home. Because the hardest part, let's say that you let your balances get way below 0. It's going to take you so much more time to get those balances back above 0 when you get back from the horse shows. That is the most important piece, is making sure that you're putting in the work before the shows. That way it's easier for you when you get home. So let's say that you've been doing a really good job I don't know, I'd give yourself a week or 2. I would say at least a week. Even if you've been 100% hitting all your goals, all the things, you need a good week of recovery when you get home. And that's usually what I tell all my clients is they come home and, they're like, "Hey, like, when should we work out again?" I'm like, "You can foam roll and you can stretch for, like, a week, but don't you dare pick up a dumbbell." I think that we've had that conversation before.
I was gonna say, I think after 2 years, finally the last 6 months, I started listening to you on that, and let me tell you, so you were right.
Oh, look at that, I was right. That never happens. So yeah, you need to give yourself at least a week. Now, let's say that you have not been doing a good job at your deposits, right? Then it might take longer. You need to let your balances get back above 0 before you can push again. And that time frame is gonna depend on a lot of different things. It's gonna depend on the person, it's gonna depend on their personal life, it's gonna depend on how hard the show was on their body and their mind. Just think of it like I said, wait until your balances are back above 0 to then hit it hard again.
Absolutely. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And like I said, once I finally started listening to you and not being bullheaded and feeling like I can't miss a day, it did make the recovery much easier on myself. And I felt like I was able to kind of get back on the schedule and in the swing of things a lot better.
So, what did you notice when you weren't giving yourself that time to recover?
Mentally, I had to push myself through every single workout. It didn't kinda just come naturally. It didn't feel not that a workout should be easy, but it didn't feel like I could just flow through the movements, do them properly the way that they're supposed to be performed. When I just kinda went straight into it, I would have to think to myself, "Oh, okay, knees not going past my toes. I gotta keep my back straight. Oh, yeah, engage your core." Whereas a lot of times those things kind of just happened naturally. And so then I would also feel a mental fatigue after a workout because I had to be so present and I was already mentally fatigued from the horse show and lack of sleep and everything else. And so it just ended up rather than making me feel like excited and rejuvenated like I do after our normal workouts, when I started back too hard too soon, it just made me feel so exhausted. But I did it
Mhm.
anyways because I was afraid of losing any progress. But after experiencing it and just trusting you and trusting the process, I realized you really don't lose any progress. You just make yourself better.
So, was the fear when you were being a little bit more stubborn and not wanting to give yourself time to recover, was the fear that you were going to be feel like you were gonna be lazy? Or was the fear that you weren't gonna achieve your goals?
Probably a combination between a fear of feeling like I was being lazy because being the type A personality, as I mentioned earlier, I feel like I can't allow myself to rest, and that's why it's good for me to say out loud that, "Hey, you know what? It is okay to sit and watch TV for the weekend, and that can be a recovery for you, both physically and mentally," and I need to listen to that. I mean, at the moment, I don't even have a TV in my house, but I really should get one so I can just veg out and join you guys. But
Yeah.
a big thing too is that I was afraid because as I mentioned before, once you reach success either in the show pen or reach the fitness level that you want, you know what it took to get there. And I was so afraid that by taking an extra week off or slowing down for an extra week, I was afraid I was going to have to endure the whole process again, which even though I smile through our
Yep.
workouts, it's hard. And I'm like, oh no, I don't want to lose what I have because we worked so hard to get there. And I think if I loosen the control a little, the success comes much easier.
So I think what you just described is why it's so important to fall in love with the process and not the result. Because if you fall in love with the result of being super fit and achieving all your goals, which while that's great, don't get me wrong, but then you get into the problem of exactly what you just described. If you fall in love with the process of working out because you like how it makes you feel and you know that it's good for your health, then you're never going to get stuck back in that position of, oh my God, I know how much work it is to get back to that point because you don't care about that. You just care about the process of it. Hi, everyone. It's your personal trainer, Ellie. If you're looking to become a stronger, more balanced, and flexible rider, I'm here to help. I offer virtual personal training sessions and customized workout plans that you can complete on your own. As a fellow competitor, I understand the physical demands riding requires, and my goal is to help you perform your best for your horse, whether you're preparing for a show or just want to improve your everyday rides. Visit lopendowntherailfitness.com or click on my website tab in the notes of this podcast episode to learn more. Let's work together to elevate your ride.
Absolutely. That's such a good point because so as we kind of were talking before we started recording of how the last couple months I've been moved, traveled, kind of a lot of things going on. And rather than having both with horses and with working out, like an quote unquote end goal of a certain physical fitness peak or the world show peak, I've been able to just step back and work out how and when I want to, and work my horses how and when I want to. And it's made me super excited for next year, but it's also reminded me of what I truly love about both of those things. And it's that the horses feed my soul and working out feeds my body. And by not having the pressure at the moment of a certain end date, I've been able to really truly fall in love with the process again and get really excited. And so I'm really hoping to take that thought process into next year and see how it kind of can help shape and develop the whole year's kind of progress and see if it's any different than in years past when maybe I had a little different way of thinking about things.
I really like that. Yeah, I think that's really cool, and I don't know the funny thing about life is I don't know that you would have gotten to that spot on your own
No.
if life hadn't put you there.
It forced it. It's forced my hand, that's for sure. And
Mhm.
by doing it, because like you said, I would not have made this choice per se, but by having young horses and then also by having AQHA create the non-pro green class for next year, it took away a lot of the pressure of having to get something done right now because I just said, "Okay, my goal has been moved to the next year, so I'm gonna allow myself to explore all these different things," which I would not have chosen if those opportunities hadn't presented themselves or forced me into this different mode, kind of to get off a little bit of the proverbial hamster wheel. Because sometimes you just get going and going and you're like, I can't do anything different. And then all of a sudden you get off and you're like, whoa, there's a whole nother way to think about things.
For sure.
Yeah. So it's been fun.
So, something else that I kind of want to talk about is how your actual workouts should look different during the recover, like kind of the off season versus like the on season. During the off season, I think is a really good time to kind of look back and reflect on the year that you had before, how it went mentally, how it went physically, how much progress you made towards your goals. Did you achieve your goals? Now is the time to kind of look back and reflect on all of that. So I think taking an inventory and either writing it down on a piece of paper or taking notes on your laptop, just keeping track and really measuring your progress to see what that looked like. And then look and see where you need to make improvements on. I think that it's a really good idea to kind of at this time of year, and maybe this might be better to do around January because it's hard to create new health and fitness goals in November and December. It's really challenging. There's just so much going on in our personal lives, and it's also a very expensive time of year. And so people kind of tend to not go out and get gym memberships and start up working out with personal trainers. There's just too much going on that our brain just kind of shuts down. And so that is a really good time to kind of start thinking on and reflecting about what you want to do better for the next year. And then maybe come January, everybody always gets those New Year's resolution goals. So, what we talked about a bit ago with like the sleep bank and just the banks in general, make sure that November and December you're really depositing a lot back into those accounts. So, physically, that can mean looking at your body and saying, okay, maybe I did a good job of getting strong, but did I kind of lose a little bit of my mobility or a little bit of my stability? Did I get an injury anywhere this year. Like, kind of look at your body and say, okay, what were the faults that I can maybe improve upon? A lot of people get focused on strength training really hard, especially heading up into the fall majors. Everybody just wants to be really strong. And not that's a bad thing. You can't do the same exact workouts all year long and expect to have great results. I would say 3 to 6 months, maybe 4 to 6 months, you need to change up your training plan and challenge your body in a different way. So maybe in the summertime is a good time to really kind of be pushing yourself harder. And then kind of towards fall, maybe don't push yourself quite as much. Look and see, where are you lacking mobility? Where are you lacking functional strength? Where are you lacking balance? And really focus on those three pieces and building those three pieces. Part of the reason why I suggest doing that in the winter is those workouts don't take near as much mental or physical energy to do. You can get a really good mobility, stretching, and balancing routine in 15 to 30 minutes. And if you did that 3 days a week, 3 to 5 days a week, that would be fantastic. But really focusing on keeping that strong base over the winter is going to be really important. I would definitely make sure that you're prioritizing that over doing nothing. So kind of what you talked about a minute ago is you were worried about like losing all your strength and everything. And so that's really why you wanted to get back into the strength training right away. A really good way to help minimize that is to still focus on your balance and your flexibility training. And I know that sounds a little bit like, well, how does that make sense? But it keeps your body fit more than you think it does. Your body doing even like some simple body weight yoga type moves is still going to challenge your muscles more than you think it does. I think that people think that our bodies are weightless, and just because you're stretching doesn't mean you're not strengthening. Well, that's not true. When you're up in downward dog, for example, you're challenging your shoulders. Like, all your body weight is sitting in your shoulders and your upper body. And it really doesn't matter what it is that you're doing. You're still challenging your body and you're still building upon that base. It's like when a horse goes on stall rest, you're hand walking it every day. Even though walking in and of itself doesn't seem like that much, there's a reason why we don't just put our horses in the stall for 6 months and have them do absolutely nothing. Even though they're resting, they still need to be doing something. That way it's much easier for them to get back to work when it's time.
Hey, Elevate Your Ride fans. Are you loving our show and looking for a way to show your support? Check out our line of Elevate Your Ride merchandise. From stylish t shirts to cozy hoodies to journals and hats, we have everything you need to represent your favorite podcast. Ready to gear up? Click on the Buy Our Merchandise Here link in the podcast notes, or head on over to our website, elevateyourride.co, and click on the Store tab. Thank you for your support. Make sure to like, follow, and share our platform with your friends. I love that you brought up walking because this is a great time to really enjoy walking and add that into your routine because
Yes.
both physically and mentally, it is just so good for you. If you can just
Yes.
take some time and it gets your creative juices flowing. So then when you do go back and want to think about your ride or think about your goals, you're going to feel a lot more open to explore different avenues after going on a walk or even in the middle of the walk when you're just kind of absorbing nature around you and just letting your body move. So walking is an awesome thing to do right now. Go check out some Christmas lights. That sounds fun.
Yeah, I love that. I actually went on like a 2-mile walk today outside because it was the first time in like 2 weeks that the sunshine has been out in Oregon.
Oh, yeah.
So that that was so nice. I loved it. And it's the first time I got to like walk around my new neighborhood since I moved here like almost a month and a half ago. So
Cannot believe
that
no.
was really nice. I know. So what can people do mentally during this time of year? What do you recommend?
Yeah, so it's gonna be along the same lines of working out, right? So you give yourself a little bit of a recovery period, but then start ramping back up for the new year with your goals. So during your recovery period, don't think about horses and showing and just kind of get off that hamster wheel of, "Oh my gosh, I need to do better, I need to do better, I need to do better." Take some time, think about anything else. Go paint a picture, go for a walk, right? Just give your mind a little reprieve from the onslaught of goals that you've always set for yourself. allow yourself to kind of just decompress a little. Then when you start going back and wanting to work on these goals, give yourself a little bit of time to audit what the year brought and provided for you, and then use that as a benchmark so that way you can start setting your goals. And as we talked about with Jeff, build a vision and then set goals that will help you achieve that vision. So sit down, create goals that are measurable, short term enough that you can use those measurements to shift gears as the year is going. So maybe make a hard goal for the first 30 days of the year. And then each goal that you set for yourself starting, let's say you write down all your goals on December 31st. As the goals are placed farther and farther out, make them a little bit looser so that way you still have a framework for where you wanna go, but there's room for adjustment as you start hitting the goals and the time passes as, "Okay, am I on track or do I really need to drastically shift gears, get different help, maybe try some new things?" So make sure that you have goals, but if they're farther out, make sure that you're flexible in your way of getting to them. But definitely give yourself some time just to not think about it. And then once you're ready, go for it and have an accountability partner. And even if that accountability partner is just a notebook in your desk that you look at every single day to remind yourself, like, okay, this is where we're going and let's get after it.
What's the biggest piece of advice you have for somebody kinda coming off the fall majors, and they just feel really burnt out? Like, maybe think back to how you felt the last time that you went to the World Show. And do you go to the Congress? Have you gone to the Congress? I assume so.
No, because I always lived too far away, so it was too long of a drive.
Ah, okay. So, think about maybe kinda what advice would you give to yourself or other people kinda coming off these fall majors?
I know that I wish I could have told myself after the World Championship shows, even last year too, because I kinda just went right back to work like I did with our workouts. I wish I would have given myself some time to appreciate how far my horse and I had come in that year and the things that we did accomplish. Even though there were a few areas that could have gone better, we had some really great rides and really great things that we did together, and I wish I woulda given myself more than just like you talked about, even just a week to really appreciate, like, okay, thank you to my trainers, to my horse, to everyone that was in my family for being supportive of this whole year because we did some really cool stuff and just appreciate that a little bit longer because you're always gonna find something to work on, and it's kinda like when you have paperwork, there's always gonna be more paperwork. So, don't get in a hurry to get to it sometimes. Just enjoy the little victories, even if the victory was just being able to hang out with your horse and your friends and take a week off of work, right? Like, appreciate that you could do that and then get after it. But I wish I would maybe have slowed down just a little bit. Thank you for listening to Elevate Your Ride. Find us on Instagram and Facebook, all linked in the podcast notes. We'll see you next time. The information provided by Elevate Your Ride is for educational and informational purposes only and is not intended as medical or professional advice. While we discuss health and fitness topics related to equestrians, the content provided through this podcast is not a substitute for professional advice. The views expressed by the host and guests on Elevate Your Ride are their own and should not be taken as professional guidance. We strive to provide accurate and up to date information, but we cannot guarantee that the information will be applicable to every individual listener or that it reflects the most current research or guidelines. Before making any changes to your health and fitness routine, we strongly recommend consulting with a qualified professional who can provide personalized advice based on your individual needs and circumstances. Elevate Your Ride and its creators will not be liable for any direct, indirect, consequential, special, exemplary, or other damages arising from the use of information on this podcast. Thank you for listening to Elevate Your Ride. We are committed to providing high quality content and appreciate your trust in us as a source of information for your health and fitness journey.